He is an A-lister who has started a family with fellow A-lister Rihanna. His stage name is A$AP Rocky, a megastar in the world of hip-hop who first exploded on the scene more than a decade ago. Rocky was raised in Harlem and had a challenging life growing up, but made himself into a star and into a millionaire. One of his friends from high school followed him to LA and was part of the A$AP group. He's known as A$AP Relly, but for some reason, the lifelong friendship of two young men who came from little to live great lives soured. And it all came to a head one day on the streets of LA. What happened was captured on surveillance video, but is not 100% clear. Prosecutors say it shows A$AP Rocky shooting his former friend A$AP Relly. The bullet allegedly grazed Relly's hand. A$AP Rocky has refused any deal, and the defense is now claiming it was a prop gun. Now the trial is underway, and the key witness is the alleged victim, A$AP Relly. Tonight, we'll have all the big moments as this celebrity trial continues in L.A. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. We've got a celebrity trial, and of course, it's out in La La Land in L.A., where most of them take place. Sometimes they're in other places, but most of the time when we have a case like this, it's in Los Angeles. This one, the actual alleged crime is caught on video. Now, the video, the figures come in and out because of the angles. There's another moment where the camera is far away from the action. Things are a little bit blurred or a lot blurred. And it's not 100% clear what's happening. When I watched it, it was clear to me that there was an altercation, but who was who and exactly what was happening was a little confusing. Now, prosecutors believe they can clarify it for the jury, but the defense says, no, this doesn't really make sense, what we're seeing or what the prosecution is saying everyone is seeing on this video. Now, A$AP Rocky was offered a sweetheart deal in this case. He's facing a lot of potential time behind bars for this alleged crime, but he said no deal. No deal. And that speaks volumes, right? Like, are you going to plead guilty to something that you did not do? If you're factually innocent, would you take a deal? Especially if you're a public figure. Would you do that? So he believes in his case, and he believes that this jury will find him not guilty. Prosecutors have something else in mind, as does the victim in this case, or the accuser, if you don't believe there was a crime here. And that's A$AP Relly. His testimony on the stand now becomes crucial because of the video being not 100% clear. His testimony needs to be 100% clear in order to convince this jury beyond a reasonable doubt. And it comes down to a lot of factors. Does his story match up with the other evidence? Does his story match up with other testimony in the case? Does the story make sense? Does it line up with the video? And does he come across as someone who's likable, believable, and credible? So that's a lot of pressure on him. But in a case like this, it's crucial. It's the key for the prosecution. And he took the stand today. And really, one of the issues for me, when I first started looking at this case and learning about it, was about what happened here. Yes, celebrities. Yes, rich. Yes, the spotlight on them. Yes, entrenched in the world of hip-hop. But to me, at the heart of all of it, these are two guys who went to high school together. Two guys who were growing up not great lives and elevated themselves to a much better life, and were doing well, and not necessarily sharing the joy of that, right? And whatever bond they had as friends back then clearly has been beyond broken. So for me, what this case really comes down to is what happened here. Why are these two guys who made it through high school, were friends back then, end up in LA, in the world of entertainment and music? How did it end like this, the relationship between the two? So I think we got at least we have one perspective on it today when A$AP Rocky testified and talked about what was going on and why there was bad blood spilled between the two. Now, this is his testimony. It's important. It's important for the jury. But as I listen to it, I'm still wondering if this is the whole story. Let's take a listen.
Rocky was trying to get Barbie to come to this complex called 10-year anniversary thing. And Jabari declined, and the conversation got kind of weird. Like, and then Jabari says something like, "Oh, I see you got bills in 12 on the jet," and it became like an inside joke because Rocky hasn't hit them, and it just became an inside joke, kind of. So then Rocky's like, "Oh yeah, you know, I got my with me, boom, 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 whatever." And then instantly after that, he says, "F that really." And I'm like, I'm sitting in the back of the chair, and I kind of get up, and I'm like, and then Barbie like stops me. He's like, and then I'm listening, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't with." Can I say what I want to say?
Yes. Say it.
So he pretty much was like, "Oh, I don't with that nigga. He mad emotional, like this, that, and the third." Pretty much. It was so long ago, but it was, and the contents of that, and then. This, that, and the third.
At the point that the defendant is saying those things about you on the phone, were you also feeling tension in your relationship with him?
I mean, it's kind of always been like that. So it's really hard having a relationship with Rocky.
Can you explain that?
I mean, you want me to tell me my personal experience, or?
Yes.
I feel like he's fake.
How so?
He lies a lot. Like, I don't see him, so it's like, how are we gonna have a relationship? You know what I mean?
Is there anything specific that you can think of?
Yeah, with like my companies or just anything, like overall. Like, you know what I mean? Like I had this one joke I call him Mr. 6-month man, because I would see him every 6 months. You know what I mean? But then when he come around, it's like, it's fake. You know what I mean? Like, what are we supposed to be in this A$AP thing for? It's all smoke and mirrors.
Did you actually voice your displeasure to him?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Through text messages, but nothing ever like threatening him or anything, just mostly telling him fake.
But you would text message him and say...
And he won't text me back. He would never text me back.
Okay.
I'll probably see him and we'll have a conversation. He'll be like, he'll laugh, like, "Oh, bro, you emotional," or something like that.
So what I'm hearing here from Relly on the stand is that, you know, I'm texting him, he's not texting back to me. He made this phone call to a third party, and he's in the car with the guy who's getting the call from Rocky, and it's on speaker, so he's listening, and he's talking about Relly sort of behind his back, because he doesn't know that Relly's listening to that. But to me, that still doesn't get to the heart of what exactly is going on between these two. Buddy's in high school. Now they're out in LA, and all of a sudden, allegations that one is pulling a gun and shooting the other one? Let's try to get to the bottom of it. Joining me, CEO of allhiphop.com, who has covered the rap game for more than 25 years, Chuck Creekmur is here with us. Chuck, thanks so much for joining us. Great to have you aboard. I gotta be honest here. My knowledge of the rap game gets a little thin once you get past Curtis Blow and the Sugar Hill Gang, okay? So once we get past that, it gets a little bit thinner. I'm starting to catch up on Diddy now with all that stuff happening. But so let's start here. What happened here? Do we really know what happened between these two childhood friends? One is a superstar, right? The other one is still, I guess, somewhat involved in the game. Obviously, not to the level of A$AP Rocky, but friends are friends. Like, you should be celebrating each other's successes. What really happened here?
Well, it's, very difficult to say exactly what's happened, but one can pretty much see that there's one guy, and this happens a lot, by the way, in hip hop. One guy experiences these incredible highs of success, fame, money, obviously, and then you throw in Rihanna, and then then you're in a completely different category. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew may not experience that type of success. Others may hang on, which is evident by the other two members of ASAP Mob. And then some may just be jealous. Now, that may or may not be the case here, but it feels very, very, very familiar. These are young guys that come from the inner city, specifically New York City, and it's a hustle town. It's where you are expected to be successful. It's almost in your blood to be successful. And then when you're standing right next to someone that can change your life, and your life does not change, or your text messages go unanswered, or you only see them every 6 months, it can really plant seeds of discontent, to put it lightly.
And obviously what's happening with A$AP Rocky, as you mentioned, Rihanna, starting a family with her, the incredible success with his Grammy-nominated music, selling millions and millions and millions and millions. But let's go back one step. So explain to us A$AP Mob, what that means. Everyone's got the A$AP before their name. That's how I kind of keep track of who's who. But what does that really mean? What is the connection? What were all their roles?
Well, A$AP Mob is a collective of hip-hop personalities, but they were different than a lot of the others. So hip-hop, it prides itself on running together, having crews. You have people like Wu-Tang Clan and other famous crews, and they are in the same line and lineage. So A$AP Mob was a little different, though, because they didn't just have rappers. They also had people in fashion. You had people in marketing. You had people that served as A&Rs. And they were young go-getters that started this whole thing when they were young. Now, A$AP Rocky was not a founder in the A$AP Mob. He was someone that came along a little later because he was a talented rapper who could carry the torch to represent where a fashion person, AKA A$AP Bari, who's mentioned in the testimony, could not in the same way. So now, you have one of the members who becomes extremely successful and the others not so successful. So it's actually very standard, but typically they do manage to stay together in some form or fashion, like the Wu-Tang Clan. Okay, but what you're telling me is A$AP's not a group, right? It's not like this guy, this is the DJ, this guy's the rapper, this guy's the, the one that gets the crowd all riled up. They're doing completely different things. So what was Relly's role in all of this? Is he part of a business kind of person, a manager? What is he doing? What's his role? And then what would be his expectations for success if he's not the front man? The front man always makes the most, don't they, usually? Yeah, definitely. I mean, Relly was an aspiring rapper. He is, I would suppose, still an aspiring rapper. So his role was to hang around, get on. Get on just means get a deal. Someone like A$AP Rocky can make things like that happen. He's a major star. He's a celebrity in that regard. He's an owner. He's a businessman as well. He's worth $20 million, according to, the internet. And so when you couple that with someone aspiring to be a rapper and you're sitting so close to someone who can change your life, I would imagine that it's very difficult for that not to be working out. And then we try to resolve it if we can, but unfortunately it doesn't happen all the time. Chuck, I want you to take a look at this. This was near the beginning of his testimony today, A$AP Relly, and it looked like he was pretty nervous inside that courtroom. Let's watch.
How close you were throughout the 15 years?
We started a collective, A$AP, which is a bunch of, how would you call it, like a bunch of people from New York that got different downers.
It's okay. Just take a minute, take a couple deep breaths.
Interesting moment there, Chuck. You know, it's. I guess being on stage is one thing. Being in a courtroom, in a witness box, something else.
Well, you know, there's another aspect to this. You know, in hip hop and in the mob, there's a thing called snitching, and there's a strict no snitching rule in hip hop, as is the case with the mob and other cultures too. And so he's on stage in a different way right now. He's literally testifying in a case that's, you know, one might say it's a little shaky. Let's just leave it there. And so I do believe he's nervous for a number of reasons, not only because he's standing right in front of A$AP Rocky, but also he's in front of the world. He's being judged by his peers and his community, and it's probably going to be very difficult for him to have that rap career that he wanted.
Yeah, that was gonna be my final question to you, is what is the result of all this for Relly and for Rocky?
Well, Rocky is really being courageous right now, and you know, not taking that 6 months is a bit shocking to me, especially when you're facing over 20 years in jail. But if you believe really truthfully that you're innocent, then I would say that he might be doing the right thing, even though the outcome of this will really determine if he did the right thing. As for Relly, you know, it's hard to say. They're accusing him of being a part of a money grab or an extortion plot. Will he somehow be able to monetize this, either civilly or in other ways? Because now the internet will help you monetize your life in a different way. So it's hard to say right now. You know, the community of hip hop is a lot more forgiving to private citizens who testify in court if they are victimized. So a lot has changed.
Chuck Kriegmer, allhiphop.com. You can get the inside look at all of this story and all the other ones that are happening in courtrooms around the country as well that we're following. Chuck, great to have you. Hopefully you'll come back. All right, folks. When we come back, we're going to bring in our think tank, get their take on all these things that happened in the courtroom, including a battle of the lawyers. Wait till you see that. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie, Politan investigates a teenage mom does not report her young child missing. Instead, the teen's father calls law enforcement after more than a month. The teen mom then lies to police. Does this sound familiar? Well, it's not Casey Anthony. It's another teenage mom, Megan Boswell, charged with the first-degree murder of her little baby, Evelyn.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
A Ponzi scheme and a deadly poisoning.
A former pharmacist already convicted in a federal fraud case.
Now stands trial for the murder of her husband.
The Ponzi scheme murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Now, although I told you that Mr. Mayers and Mr. Ephron were close at one point, you will hear that throughout their relationship, there was tension between the two of them. And that tension was essentially building up to the night of November 6th, 2021.
This case is about one man's jealousy, lies, and greed. And that man is not Rocky. That man's Terell Ephron, or you've heard the name Relly. He's the source of all the evidence in this case, all of it. That the prosecution is going to rely on, he's the source of all the evidence. The two assaults you're going to hear about in this case were both committed by this Relly. Both. All the evidence comes through his mouth. Every single piece of evidence for you to decide these charges comes through his mouth. This case rises or falls on his credibility.
I agree with Joe Tacopino, ASAP Rocky's attorney there, that his credibility is crucial to this case. But it's not the only evidence. I mean, there's also video of it, right? Now, it's not crystal clear video like you're watching right now, but it's video. So there is other evidence of this, and something obviously did happen. So let's take you into the courtroom to listen to the testimony of ASAP Relly, also known as Ephron, describing what happened.
His hands wasn't up. It was more so walking, so then when we got to each other, he like tried to like grab me or try to like grab me by my collar. That's why you see like that, and then I like grabbed him off. You know what I mean?
So as best you can remember it, he was the first one who grabbed you by the collar?
Then he grabbed me by my collar.
And then you raised which of your hands to
My left.
your left hand to separate from it?
Yeah.
Okay. And as he grabbed the collar of your sweatshirt, what did he do?
I think he's just trying to tug at me and like talking and going back and forth. I was angry because he touched me. I was just like, the off me or probably like. But then, mind you, the gun came out seconds later, so then my tone got really angry after. Because what the you got a gun for? And that's what I said.
If someone said that the defendant was known to carry a prop gun or fake guns, would that have been knowledge that you personally had?
No, you don't carry fake guns. I mean, you don't. Prop guns?
Yes.
No.
When the two of you move off of the screen, is that where he first pulled the gun out of his waistband?
Yeah.
What was the first thing that you saw him do with the gun?
Oh, he pointed at me, and then that's when Elijah was like in between, and he's like, "I'll kill you right now," or like whatever, like just was. And then I'm right behind Elijah, and I'm saying, "If you brought a gun, use it then." Like, you brought a gun for?
Was it moving?
Yeah, it was moving. He had it up.
Okay, so he didn't just hold it at your stomach. It was kind of
No, he was looking for a spot to shoot.
Okay.
If Elijah wasn't there, I don't know what would have happened. I became furious.
So what did you say back to him?
I told him to use it.
Why did you?
Because mentally, like, I couldn't believe he just pulled the gun out on me. So I'm like, what the like, you better use that you got a gun for. That was the breaking point for me. Because like what I said, I told this kid numerous times, if you have a problem with me, let me know. You know what I mean? I feel like this got to the max. Like this was like no return. So if I was willing to die for my respect at this point, I don't care. You get what I'm saying? Like if this is what you want to do, I still have my dignity. That's how I felt.
Okay, let's bring in our think tank. Joining me tonight, trial attorney, former police lieutenant Rick King. Also with us, trial attorney, fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, Ann Bremner. And defense attorney, former head prosecutor Bob Bianchi. Welcome to you all. All right, Rick, ASAP Relly on the stand describing what's happening. I'm watching the video. Seem to be some consistencies here. I thought I saw a gun. Like, Rocky's not taking a deal. He's not taking the deal. 6 months. He's facing 20 years. What are your thoughts about how the testimony's going for Relly?
My first thought is the Sugar Hill Gang and Curtis Blow. That's what you got.
Yeah. I also know. Yeah, and Duke Booty from the Furious Five.
Duke Booty. All right. Anyway, for me, like when I listen to the testimony of Relly, my thoughts are this. Listen, if he believed that there was a gun and the victim has a reasonable belief that there's a firearm in this case, I don't know that the defense of, hey, it was just fake is going to carry the day, because at the end of the day, in the law says if the victim has a reasonable belief that, and there's a well-founded fear that, that some sort of force is going to be taken, that's an assault. And they're going to have to prove that somehow he knew that this wasn't a gun, and I just think they're far from that.
Well, he's not only saying it's a gun, he's saying he was shot, and the bullet grazed his hand. He went to get it treated at the hospital. Ann Bremner, what do you think of the testimony so far of Relly? He hasn't been cross-examined by our friend Joe Tacopino, but What are your thoughts so far?
Well, he seems credible. Wasn't Joe Tacopino a guest on Court TV in the very beginning?
He was a regular. He's a regular on Court TV.
Okay.
He represented Melanie McGuire, the woman who murdered her husband and chopped him into pieces, put him in a suitcase, then drove down to the Chesapeake Bay and threw the suitcases out.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
that's
testing
Joe.
my memory a little bit here, Vinnie. Yeah, so, I mean, he seems credible, but, frankly, with that video, and all they have is his witness, I just think with someone this famous, kind of look at the Johnny Depp factor, people are kind of bamboozled by somebody like, especially Freona's in the courtroom. I just think it's going to be an uphill battle. And if there's no evidence there was a gun, wasn't Erica James, police officer's son, that went to the scene and found no evidence that a gun had been used, none whatsoever.
Right.
Some items were found later. So that's really compelling for Rocky, I guess. I mean, I look at this now and I think I'd like to defend this case. I don't know if I'd want to prosecute this case.
Look at those injuries, Ann. He was shot.
Well, but yeah, is that from a gun? I mean, did they have an expert on that? I mean, I could take a fall and scrape my hand like that. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like the whizzing by Trump with the bullet, right? When we saw, was he shot?
I mean, it could be grazed.
Yeah.
All right. Bob, what are you thinking tonight, Bob, as you look at the injuries, you look at the video? I definitely saw a gun in the video. What do you think?
Each of these guys took a point away from me, so I gotta come big at the end. I agree they get the Trump factor going on with the injury. I've seen surface injuries like that, and I definitely agree with the opinion that it just requires a reasonable belief under the law. It doesn't even have to actually have a be in the gun. Now, here are my two other observations I'll make. Since we're talking about Joe Tacopino, this guy wears the tightest suit I've ever seen in my life. This guy is jacked. I am really impressed with the muscular structure coming through that suit. However, I think he's got a long road to hoe here, Vinny, and here's why. I think this witness is coming across very credible. I think he's very understated, but we all know, I'm a Jersey boy, and everybody's got some common sense about this. Are you telling me this defendant? We saw what we saw on the video. There was a gun. The only way you're getting out of that is by saying it's like a starter pistol and that it made a noise. We have a 911 call where somebody's calling in that there was a shot fired. So you saw how quick he put that fake gun in his pocket. Nobody carries a fake weapon. You pull a fake weapon out as a recipe to be killed. I don't think people are going to believe that from a point of common sense, especially since he's licensed to carry a weapon in that state. I don't think it's believable.
Rick, let me ask you, if it's a fake gun, couldn't the defense just bring it into the courtroom and show the jury through a witness that it was a fake gun and it exists? Like, it doesn't have to be a mystery. If it's fake, just produce the fake gun.
That looks exactly like the gun that's on the video. So you have to have all of those things, and you're right. I mean, but taking the other side just for a second, the problem that I have with the case is that Relly finds the casings 2 days after the.
Well, let me ask you this, Rick, because you're a former police officer. This is Los Angeles. There's a lot happening. How exhaustive do you think the investigation was looking for that evidence? Honestly.
I'm going to tell you. But here's the thing, in 2025, here's what we know, everything is on video. So the first thing that cops are looking for is some sort of video evidence of what took place. So they get the video and they can see the apparent scramble of what's happening. And so if Rocky is here, then the casings are going to be here too in this area. Now, did they call out crime scene? I don't know, because we don't know that just yet. Or was it just the officers looking? But for Relly to find the casings 2 days later and bring them in, it's kind of suspect for me. I don't like that part of it. That's
okay,
the part
I'll give you why I'm skeptical about the level of the investigation, and it has nothing to do about police officers, but it's a real story. I was doing the morning news in Atlanta, and there was a shooting in downtown Atlanta overnight. So we've got our morning reporter at the scene. There's a car parked near where the shooting was. The car pulls away, and what's underneath the car? There's a gun that was used in the shooting. that police didn't find. Our reporter found it, quickly called 911. So that's why I'm just skeptical that in a case where no one is shot and killed, especially in a big city like Atlanta, like LA, they might, you know, cut a couple corners.
I would believe that if it wasn't ASAP Rocky.
Okay.
If it was some Joe Schmo or whatever, maybe they're not. Maybe they don't give it as much attention. This is ASAP Rocky.
Okay.
I feel like they're going to give it a little more attention.
And you represent police officers. Your thought?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, I mean, for many years representing the police, I think they'd have a thorough search, and I think that if you don't find anything, you don't find anything, and that's huge. And it's LA. I mean, like you said, it's a big city, and it wasn't a car that was under, right, Vinnie, or someplace where things were hidden. I mean, they had a thorough search. I think the cross-examination.
Yeah. Finding that gun under the car would have required someone bending down. Bob, we have 10 seconds, Bob. 10 seconds. I'll let you put a bow on this segment.
As the former prosecutor, I can't tell you the dumbfoundery of it, how many things have been left at the scene, including a body under the vehicle that I've actually seen, quote unquote, upon a thorough search. They, according to this case, Vinnie, real quick, they said they only had 20 minutes at the scene to investigate. I can completely believe they didn't find it.
Okay. Everyone's staying with us, right? Oh, yeah. Coming up, the battle between the lawyers, the prosecutor and the defense attorney, Joe Tacopina. Wow. It was off the hook. We'll show you that when we come back.
All right. Why don't we do this? I did not hear you yell. I did not hear it. And if it did happen, it wasn't in my presence. Because you two have this relationship, why don't you not talk to each other unless it's on the record?
Oh, that's...
And then I am involved.
That train is still... Yes, absolutely. I agree with that.
Two high-profile attorneys. The prosecutor, in this case, John Lewin, you know him from other cases that we've covered here on Court TV. And you've got Joe Tacopina, again, covering cases on Court TV, was a guest years ago for many, many years. They went at it today. That's the aftermath of all of it. Let me show you what happened inside the courtroom.
Counsel elected at his request to give a speech that he was very happy with his jury, wanted it to be known that he was happy with the jury.
Give a speech. Stop. Don't interrupt.
Okay, fine.
You'll have a chance.
Oh, I know, but he should...
You'll have a chance. Wait till he finishes, then you'll have a chance.
I know what he's doing right now.
Do not interrupt neither of you interrupt the other.
He then asked to approach. When we asked to approach, he said he wanted to do it on the record. On the record. But outside the press, he then complains about jury selection, about a specific juror, etc. We are not going to participate in Mr. Tacopina's attempts to manipulate the media. Again,
first of all, I'd like him to provide a quote of what I said to the press, because one thing I've never done is speak about the facts of this case since the jury's been out. Never. Okay? But I do have here a quote from the district attorney, Mr. Hoffman, who did quote to Extra that he appreciates any time defense counsel is pretty sure they're going to prevail, but we don't bring cases unless we're very sure we can win those cases by establishing and meeting our burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I believe that when we see the evidence that's going to be presented in this case, we'll meet that burden. So that's their district attorney. Okay, so I should be able to rebut something like that. That's different. That's saying we're going to win the case. We know the evidence, and we'll meet our burden. I talked about nothing other than potential issues with the jury. I didn't speak about the facts. I didn't speak about Mr. Ephron, and I won't do that. So before we start casting aspersions, I was never even raising the bar. Just happy. I understand this is trial, but you know, being that we're now throwing stones, let's hold the kettle black.
Let's not throw stones.
Well, I know, but they started. So I'm going to respond.
This is a no squabbling zone.
Oh, after he swallows. I'll swallow him back.
on Friday, it doesn't really matter what the circumstances were. Mr. Tacopina literally started screaming at me in the... So, I have not interrupted Mr. Tacopina. As I speak, Mr. Tacopina makes noises. again, if there's got to be a certain decorum, we're following it. But you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. So we would appreciate, as a court is respectfully instructed, when one order's talking, the other order not interrupt. Mr. Jackpina, as court is aware, started literally screaming at me in the courtroom. He basically appeared to challenge me to a fight. And again,
Both of you are zealous attorneys, aggressive attorneys, both of you.
He challenged me to a fight. Bob Bianchi, what's going on here?
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's good, zealous advocacy that's gone too far. But here's what I like. Tacopino, first of all, is correct. The prosecutor should not have been making extrajudicial statements, and he's got a right to be able to respond to those things. And if he responds to it vociferously and strongly and hard, he's doing that in representing his client's best interest. What I said in the beginning of this trial, and I believe it's coming to be true, is Tacopino's not going to just try the case. He's going to also attack the prosecutor along the way. He's going to try to make their life miserable, throw them off their game. And as far as I can see right now, he's doing an effective job at making the prosecutor's life miserable. He's loving every second of it. Every moment that these arguments are going on, it's reinvigorating him. It's making him more impassioned. And he's trying the case both against the state's theory and the prosecutors themselves. And by the way, last point, this guy Lewin, from what we saw in the Durst trial, the fact that they had to drag that guy in from another jurisdiction to try the case in this jurisdiction, I've never seen anything like it. That has to be kind of the worst choice in my mind you could make, not to mention a disrespect to the prosecutors that they don't have enough talent there to try this simple case. Come on.
He challenged him to a fight. And?
Yeah, so what?
Well,
First of all, no one's fighting Joe Tacopino these days.
No.
No one is fighting Joe Tacopino these days. Not if he goes down to Venice Beach with all the other guys. But let me ask you, Ann, have you seen, I haven't seen anything quite to this level in a long time.
no, I mean, why don't they just reach over and back each other? Just get it over with. It's terrible.
Rick, it seems to be getting personal, and now they can't talk to each other.
So I love.
It's like a couple. It's like family court, right? They went through this bitter breakup.
Yes.
And the judge says, don't talk to each other. Talk to your lawyer. Oh, wait, you're the lawyers. So you got to talk to me, the judge.
Yeah. And listen, when you're in the well of the court, man, it's a war. When you're in that well, that's what it is. They've kind of gone a little too far, but in that well, man, it's as Bob said, it's that zealous advocacy, and it's that fighting for your client. And sometimes you put on that show for your client because you want him to believe that you're fighting for him as hard as you can. That's advocacy at its best. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, he does go by the name Rocky, Bob. So I guess we should have a fight at some point during this whole thing. But you believe that Tacopino's purposely doing this to try to throw the prosecutor off his game?
There's no doubt about this in my mind. This is a tactic that defense attorney. Look, there's a part, like being said, that we're zealous in the courtroom. I've been there. I'm a very aggressive trial attorney, so I've been in fights and battles like this for sure. But as a prosecutor, I had to tend to back up a little bit because I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole. I didn't want to say something on the record that could get me into trouble. I didn't want to make any of the decorum in the courtroom any less than it needed to be. So you have to be more strategic as a prosecutor. For a defense attorney, what you're doing is one word: disruption. Disruption of the government's proofs, disruption of the prosecutor themselves, disruption of their evidence that they're going to put on, the way they put it on, throw them off their game, make every day they wake up, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to go try this case again with this maniac. That's what defense lawyers do.
One of my first trials was against one of those legendary maniacs in New Jersey. All right, I want to show you something. Who else was in court today, because they represent the victim in this case, in a civil case. Do you recognize them? That's Ben Chu, Camille Vasquez, civil attorneys representing ASAP Relly in a case against Rocky and against Joe Tacopina. Thoughts, Ann Bremner?
Well, they got great lawyers. And I think Mr. Chu's been on too many times, so good for him. Now there's a civil case, although against the victim. So there you go.
You know, Rick, we're starting to see more of this now of lawyers being sued for defamation for some of their statements that they're making outside of the courtroom.
That's why you got to be careful with that stuff. Hey, if your job is to practice in the courtroom, practice in the courtroom. Don't take it out into the media, because those things can kind of happen. But
not so loud, not so loud. They can talk to the media.
I prefer to live, as Bob was saying, I prefer to live rent-free in the head of the prosecutor. That's where you want to be. You want to be living in his head, because the more he's worried about you, the less he's thinking about that case.
And finally, Bob, do you think the civil aspect of this undermines the credibility of the accuser victim here?
Absolutely. It's the first thing I thought when I saw this. This is not a good look. Prosecutors do not want to see this happening. If it gets out or ekes out to the jury, or it gives the defense attorney opportunities to say, like, there's a clown show going on in the court of public opinion, I don't know why the civil attorneys would do this other than to increase their stature. It doesn't help their client's case. It harms the prosecution's case. And last point, it is correct. The ethics rules say that lawyers should not be trying their cases out in the court of public opinion, and it continually goes on and it's allowed to go on. And I'm hoping someday, Vinnie, somebody's gonna smack one of these lawyers down to say these are inappropriate things to do right out in front of a courthouse, I believe that was, while a criminal trial is going on. It's not a good look.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in the First Amendment. I like people when they speak. I think the more they speak, the better it is, but we'll see. I understand that the rules of the profession. And it is a profession, practicing law. And we had three great professionals tonight, Rick King, Ann Bremner, Bob Bianchi. Always a pleasure. When we return, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, little Evelyn Boswell was 15 months old when she was reported missing. Her mom had sole custody, but she's not the one who called 911. It was Evelyn's grandpa. And now Megan is charged with murder, and we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
He was an icon. They are in for the fight of their lives.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know today. Let's take a look at the big board. Deliberations begin Wednesday in the Ponzi scheme murder by insulin trial. That is Natalie Cochran, accused of murdering her husband Michael with insulin. Remember, she told the court, yeah, I'm going to testify. Well, she decided not to testify. All the evidence is in. It's time for the jury to get the case. So we'll be on a verdict watch. Tune in first thing tomorrow morning with Julie Grant. Because as you know, when there is a jury out, the verdict can come back at any minute. Right now, please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Jalen Jashelle Juanita Dobbins, 16 years old, missing from Nashville, Tennessee since January 23rd. Take a look at her picture. If you see Jalen, pick up the phone, make the call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Knoxville Police Department in Tennessee. Knoxville Police Department, that number's on the screen. Let's see if we can get Jalen to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.